When Alexander the Great went off to war, he always took along his trusted philosophers. One day, one of them met an Indian wise man and asked him, which came first, the day or the night? The Indian answered, the day, but it only preceded the night by a day. Many people have wondered what the night was made of. The ancient Romans believed that the night was material, a substance which rose from the earth every evening to spread through the air and darken it. They also believed that this substance enters our molecules, dims us, makes us sleep and dream. And when day returns, it evaporates.
I went to Julie's house in the country. I did everything possible to dispel my melancholy. I admit that if Julie were willing, I would not resent her as I do that other creature.
You think Julie has more of the sensitivity, the passion that amuses you?
You remember how hot it was last summer?
Yes, it was suffocating.
I went to see her one day. I found her alone in a small drawing room with all the windows closed. Flowing drapes dimmed the light even more. Julie was sprawled carelessly on a sofa, wearing a plain bodice and a skirt that scarcely hid her legs. Her head was bare, her hair was down. You know how pretty she is.
Yes, pretty rather than beautiful.
She had often tempted me, and I told her so a few times just in passing. That day, I felt like telling her again. Her position was charming, and my arrival did not move her to alter it in the least. She looked at me. Did you know she is studying at the Institute and sometimes gives dinners for the leading lights of the Academy of Science?
Yes, she thinks she knows something about physics, so?
I'd often teased her about imagining herself a scientist. That day, she felt she had to prove it to me. She launched into a discussion about the effects of heat.
Heat?
Heating the humors relaxes the fibers in our tissues, dilates the arteries, and slows the movement of the blood. Once our wits are scattered, hence the weakening that dissipates our energy.
Did you contradict her?
Instantly. I do not share your opinion. It is just the opposite. My heart seems to beat faster in the heat, and my blood flows faster through my veins.
All the books on physiology dispute you. I am sure you're wrong.
Not as far as I'm concerned.
On a day like today, for example, I do not know of a man who would not be completely lifeless, even in the arms of the most generous of women.
I'm afraid you're mistaken.
I am not. I am sure of what I say. And the best physicists in the world agree with me. Heat softens our humors and wipes out desire in us.
One can be an eminent physicist and still be wrong about this. Perhaps great men judge only by themselves.
By whom would you have them judge?
By me.
If the man exists who is not diminished by heat, that man is a freak.
Were you such a freak?
I had been for more than a quarter of an hour, madame. I don't think of myself that way.
Monsieur, you are like all ignoramuses. You argue against the evidence.
Miracles can happen.
Not in this case.
Physicists don't always have to be right.
Physics is a science.
You force me to convince you, madame. What more convincing proof could I offer?
Then what happened?
Madame, she was stunned. I have never seen a philosopher so humiliated. I told her that her stubbornness had forced me to make my demonstration.
That it was her fault?
That there are exceptions to every rule, which she ought to admit, if only for her own sake. And I added, now, Madame, for the honor of physics, you cannot refuse to carry this experiment through to its end. So far, I have only half refuted your position.
What do you mean, half refuted?
Why, so far, you only have appearances to go on, and they might not stand up under more decisive testing. They might weaken. After all, it's so hot.
What did she say?
She didn't say anything. She feared I might think her too easily defeated. She wanted to humiliate me to test my weakness. Add to that the peculiar situation.
Strange moment.
She sighed tenderly, blushed a little, her eyes shining with a fire that belied her stern manner, all announced to me that she was eager for enlightenment. To avoid interruptions in the important lesson I was prepared to give her, I went and shut the door and returned to prove her opinion incorrect.
I'm sure you convinced her.